All right, okay, let's get started. Hello, my name is Ryan Selvy, and welcome to the 48th episode of Offset. Very excited to start counting the episodes, and now we're up to episode 48, which is crazy. And this is the first episode of 9 episodes that we're going to have this week. So if you're here live, make sure you stick around. And we have 2 more episodes today and 3 for the next 2 days. So that we have a total of 9 episodes. I'm really excited about it. Today we're joined by Formplay. They are a UK studio they're a UK studio based in motion design and character animations, which is really cool. And I'm excited to bring them in. I want to say hello to everyone that's in the chat, from Oliver and Stian, also Jack, and thank you guys for being here on both YouTube and Behance. The replay will be available on YouTube, so make sure you check it out on youtube.com/Adobe Live Community. But that is enough time of me rambling, and we should go ahead and bring in our guests for today. So please welcome Catharine and Mark. Hi, guys. How's it going?
Hello. Hi there. Lovely to be here.
Thank you for taking the time for joining the show. It's great to finally bring you guys on air. We have a few people saying hello, like Sean and Brem, also over in the chat. Good to have you guys also joining in here. But I guess the easiest way to start off would be with our very first segment, which would be our elevator pitch. So I've got a little timer thing here. Unfortunately, I don't have it on the screen, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this up to 60 seconds. It would be a long elevator ride, but 60 seconds nonetheless. And I'm going to start it off. And if you guys could just go ahead and give your elevator pitch. So are you ready?
We're ready.
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello, we're Catharine.
I'm Mark.
We're co-founders of Formplay. We're a UK-based animation duo creating characterful 2D animations for brands and businesses using playful storytelling. We specialize in frame animations, often hand-drawn, and since launching in 2017, we've been lucky enough to work with brands such as Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, Sephora, and Google. We place exploration and play at the heart of our practice, not only to create work that we enjoy making, but we believe that a playful approach to storytelling helps cut through the noise and helps engage audiences in a more memorable way. That's us done.
Whoa. All right. So you got 20 seconds left. Wow.
Wow.
Time to fill awkward conversation with the last few floors. But yeah, that's really cool. So that's 6 years coming up on 7 years of Formplay, right?
Yeah.
And what had you guys start the studio? What made you decide we want to go out and build Formplay?
Well, I mean, we've been working together for quite a few years beforehand, but doing a lot of kind of retail clients. And we were doing everything, basically. We were doing sort of print and some more advertising campaigns. I think we burnt out, really, didn't we?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think, we definitely got to a point where we were just doing the same sort of type of work over that period. And we just thought, this isn't really, if we've got to sustain our career, we've got to do this for quite a while. So obviously, we decided to make the transition to something that actually has been such a passionate thing for many years before that, which was animation, and really delving into that. So that's why we decided, actually, let's just start again, almost,
Just niche on one thing, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No regrets, right?
No.
The only regret that we didn't do it earlier.
Yeah, do it earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hello to Daniel also, who's saying hello, and Eliana and Lasago. Thank you guys for being here. Since we're mentioning your guys' work, I guess we can also hop into let's look at your work. Let's look at your work. And so you guys have actually do you have 2 reels, or is it just, I think you have your play reel that I have loaded up. Do you guys also have a form reel as well?
No, that would be great.
That'd be
What
quite
a
a
brilliant
good idea,
idea.
yeah.
But
Are they
no.
two divided like entities?
Well, not really. We've just, I suppose we call it form and play just because we play with form. And I think it's just that putting play at the heart of what we do.
Right.
But we called it a play reel instead of a show reel, just because I think it's just, we really like the idea of play being central and not always that sort of side thing once the work's finished. So that's why we just thought, well, let's just call it play reel.
Yeah,
I love that.
We kind of tied as well with, you know, the kind of breaking it between the two of us as well, because obviously we're a duo as well. So we have that form and then we have the play. So it's that sort of, that's how it almost came about to start with. But yeah, we've definitely leaned in more to the play now that we've had more experience, and we just definitely that side of things has really taken off. I think, you know, where we really enjoy that part of it.
And I think that's reflected in your work. That well, actually, let's check out the reel, and then we can then talk a little bit about it.
Thank you. It's like seeing your life flash before your eyes.
Right? Nice little self-review almost, but put on the spot also. At least we didn't have your faces, you know, down in the corner while you had to watch your own work. That would be a nice little form of torture. Bruce is in the chat saying, ugh, love it. And Oliver says, wow. Jack Watson is also agreeing, saying such fun work. So yeah, obviously big emphasis on play. There's a lot of very fun characters, lots of fun movement. I loved the underwater scenes. Those are obviously really hard to pull off, with little bubbles, and the kind of the fluid motion of everything. Do you guys have a favorite out of that reel that you have?
I mean, that's kind of mixed of kind of our own work and commercial work, sort of commissioned work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think although it's always, you know, the commercial work that we have is always, there are always elements to it that we absolutely love. But there's something about the studio, you know, our own, you know, our own directed work, as it were, that's kind of just, I would say, is our favorite.
I think ones that obviously have so we actually start with the characters. So we obviously create the characters and then animate them as well. I think they're the fun ones to do, because you can really explore the character and then obviously bring them to life as well. That's for me one of the kind of really enjoyable parts of it, really.
Yeah, it's like hard to, I feel like, pick your favorite child through it all, because it really is from beginning to end creating something and then bringing it to life. Have you ever created anything in the character design phase? Then when you got to animation, you were like, "Oh, this isn't."
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's one in there that we. I mean, it was actually the Comedy Central. No, it wasn't. Sorry, it was a Nickelodeon piece where the main character's on the bike, and it was all done in animates, and that was just painstaking, wasn't it? Just all the different angles of the bike, all the elements.
Yeah, realizing
a bike is bold.
Yeah, a bike is so bold, and I think obviously it was actually about cycling, and therefore we couldn't get away. We had to have the bike in there, and
but now it's a flex. Now it's like, hey, you don't necessarily have to do it again, but now you can be like, look, we did it. It's there. Don't challenge us again.
No, exactly.
Anita is saying it's such a colorful and eye-catching reel, and they love it. And then also hello to Lee, and Umacorn is calling out the girl wielding the sword is so cute. Yeah, there are lots of very cute characters across bunch of different aesthetics, but also very cohesive at the same time. But yeah, have a lot of questions for you. And we have a new segment that we actually have that is 20 questions. And I would love to hop into that real quick.
Okay.
20 quick questions. So I don't know if this is going to be kind of like 40 questions, considering there's 2 of you. But I mean, it's all the prompts are still going to say maybe it's 20 questions, 40 answers. But
yeah, we won't argue.
yeah, right. There are just a few that are, you know, quick answers, quick questions. And I would love to hear some are opinion and some are fact. I mean, you might argue that all of them are fact, but we will see. But number 1 would be, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Right-handed. Yeah.
Right-handed.
We agree on that.
What's the best color?
This is quite controversial, actually. I think mine's a sort of light violet, that kind of slightly neon, ever so slightly neon, but that kind of lovely lilac-y violet.
Yeah. Mine would be like a really deep midnight blue, not black, but as near as black as it can be, but really dark blue. I really like that color.
Okay, and the contrast, but also complementary. I feel like the purple and the blue work together.
Yeah.
What's the best shape?
I know that one. I would say for me, circle. I just think circles are so versatile as far as when you're animating. You know, obviously bouncing ball and all that. So yeah, say the circle.
I think I'd say triangle, just from the composition. You know, just getting that you know, that triangle always working.
Yeah.
I'm worried I'm going to get you guys like in a divorce by the end of this. It's going to come up in couples therapy later. Like, he said circle and I've always been a triangle. What is the hardest thing to draw?
Oh, I don't know. I suppose, I don't know, perfect circle, I suppose.
Yeah, the perfect circle, definitely. I would say, I mean, the old cliche of hands. I mean, hands are notoriously hard because they're so complex. So I find definitely hands are really hard. But you just have to almost get a shortcut for certain ways at position that they are, and then you can get on with it. So that's what I find.
Now, to that point, I know this isn't a question in the segment, but to that point, would you say hands or bicycles are harder to draw?
I would. Well, that's a good question. Bicycles. They're so complex. That's the thing, and they have to be right. You know, if anything's out, then you notice it. So it's so easy to notice. So yeah, definitely bicycles.
Just that human instinct to be able to tell when a bicycle works.
Yeah.
And also, what is the easiest thing to draw?
I would say, well, can I go?
Yeah.
I would say something that you've drawn over 1,000 times.
Yep.
Because again, frame by frame animation is obviously what we do chiefly, and having to draw that, say, character over and over and over again, you get to see all the different angles, and then it becomes sort of second nature. You know where the nose is, where the head is. So yeah, I'd say that really. About yourself.
I think I'd probably say, I mean, storyboards, simply because you don't have to perfect the drawing. You know, it's about like communicating that, you know, that direction and exploring, you know, staging and you know, angles and all of these things. So yeah,
both great answers. I know that in college there was a thing that there was one class, and thankfully I didn't have to take it, but my roommate kept coming home and being like, I have to draw 100 more of the same thing over and over again, because they were trying to just really hone that in. Like, luckily I never took that class. I mean, he got better because of it, but I was like, oof, that is a own form of torture.
Yeah, it can be really brutal. But actually, I guess as you go along that journey, you almost start to enjoy it. I mean, that's again part of being an animator, is you've got to just lean into the fact that you're going to be drawing this person or character for a lot of time, you know. And it's the fact that if you do that over and over again, then you get better at that specific thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I was watching a YouTube video over Christmas break, and it was talking about ways to get better at animation and get likeness down. And basically, the guy was just saying, "Yeah, there's no really easy way around it. Just
Gotta do it.
scroll it 1,000 times, and eventually, it's going to feel more cohesive."
Yeah.
To that point, I know we talked about the hardest thing to draw. What's the hardest thing to animate?
Bicycles, no. We're going on a
I mean,
theme.
it could be. It's fine if it's both. It can be the same answer.
I want to say, but I do want to say, I think, I would say bicycles actually, because they are really hard. Because you've got to get proportion absolutely right, and the wheels turn independently to the frame, and everything works very, very difficult. With a lot of difficulty. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I'd say perhaps characters sort of keeping that consistent volume, especially with obviously hand-drawn character animation. And as they're moving, just keeping that volume always is really tough. Yeah.
No, agreed. What is the most productive hour of the day?
Oof. Early for me, I think. Quite, strong coffee, and I'd say even like that 7 to 8 o'clock kind of super early.
Whoa, really? Okay.
Quite woken up properly yet. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys catch your speed at the same time?
I think that's where we definitely get the most. Almost the brain is just starting to work. It wakes up quite quickly, and then we can just have we sometimes have a sort of a morning brainstorm or real quick ideas what we're going to be doing, and that seems to be the most productive time of the day, really. So I'd say the same. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, we are very different, but opposites attract. It's great. What's the best medium?
I think a pencil, actually, but I guess just drawing generally. So whether that's a digital pencil on Photoshop, but the actual traditional pencil, just it's so portable. And we love the Blackwing pencils. I just think are so. They are, as they say, I think was the twice the half the pressure, twice the speed. I think is the strap line, and I think it's true. They're so sort of smooth to draw with.
Yeah, and I would say for me, it's ink. Actually, pen and ink is because it's so direct. I mean, you'll see in the sketchbooks that I tend to do that because I can't escape anything. You have to commit to that line, and there's no sort of rubbing out or anything. It's or erasing. It's very much once that line's there, that's the one you have, and you can't do anything about it. So
works under pressure.
Yeah.
To that point, some would say that would be a downfall to it. But what's the worst medium?
I would maybe I would say sort of maybe acrylic and oil again for me. I don't necessarily go towards that as a medium to work with. I have used it, but I've never really sort of produced anything of any worth there. I've just found it a bit too difficult to work with, really. Maybe I should try it a bit more.
Yeah, I think I'd say the same.
Yeah,
actually, yeah.
And you said a little bit this is actually earlier, but are you fueled by coffee or tea?
Coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon.
Yeah, coffee. Definitely. Love coffee. I could drink coffee by the gallon, so you probably should. But
not related. I mean, not an official prompt, but do you put anything in your coffee or your tea?
Brandy? No. No, nothing. I don't have any. We have decaf as well, which is quite, I don't necessarily need the actual caffeine as well. So I just love the taste of it. So
just have it black.
Yeah.
Love that. What's a piece of client feedback you hear too much?
Can we make it loop?
Oh.
When you've gone through the whole procedure and they definitely don't want to make it loop, and then right at the end they want to have it looped.
Oh man, that's rough.
That's always a challenge.
Yeah, that's a real challenge.
But we like challenges, so that's good.
Well, can we do this? And then you've gone through all that process, and then you've just got that extra bit to do. You think, oh no, we have to do that at pencil stage, not at finals.
How many unread emails do you have in your inbox?
Oof, too many. I think we're really guilty of subscribing to too many newsletters. And you kind of get a bit overwhelmed actually after a while. We need to have a big cull of them, I think.
Yeah, I would say just basically not that many, I guess. Like I kind of read most of them and then just chuck the ones I don't want and put them into trash. So, I could kind of wheedle them out and work out which ones are worthwhile reading and that sort of thing. So
bringing it to inbox zero. That's always the goal, but I don't know if it ever gets there.
Definitely not.
What's the first thing you draw when drawing a character?
Probably I'd say the head, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. Or maybe the nose, actually. Sometimes even though it's even more, going into the detail, but depending on the character, I think, the nose is obviously direction of head and then the head round it, or the head and then the nose, depending on where the orientation of the head, really, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know why I always tend to draw, when I'm drawing a static, I'll just draw the nose first for some reason. Don't know why.
What's the best background noise for work?
Oh, I personally, I just find no noise. I think the noise cancelling, earbuds and whatnot, I don't know, it just gets me into the zone so quickly. I just find silence just really, I don't know, for certain work anyway, especially if I'm writing, I can't have that headspace battle going on with music. But you're pretty good, aren't you?
I tend to listen. Well, again, depends on what I'm doing, which part of the process we're in. But I listen to sort of low key jazz. So that's sort of just instrumental. It mustn't have any singing. I can't have any vocal in there because that's too distracting. So yeah, it's just that sort of low that's in the background, and I can just sort of carry on and get on with getting the keys in the right place and everything right. So.
Do you prefer one long project or a bunch of tiny projects?
I don't know. I think it's quite nice to have a few projects on the go, but maybe only one of them with a pressured deadline, as in imminent deadline. I think when you've got that clash, it's just too much. And I think really all projects suffer especially when you're a small team like we are.
Yeah.
If we've got freelancers in, then that's great. There's a real kind of flow with that when we've got lots of projects on. But I think when we're trying to keep it small, I'd say, maybe. I think the golden number is sort of 2 or 3 projects rumbling along, but one with the sort of pressing deadline.
Yeah, definitely. I think having that long project are really great because you can really get down into it and almost switch off a little bit once you're getting into the process. But having the small projects as well they sort of trundle along, and if you're thinking, obviously it depends on the day to day, because obviously the deadline's your deadline, you have to get them done. But I like having, or I think both of us like having those little side projects as well that are bubbling away, that we can kind of every now and then, if you're feeling a bit, this is too much, we can just do a little thing there and come back to the big project after.
Yeah, in order to kind of have a variety and kind of like a palette cleanser almost.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do you finish filling the sketchbook or just buy a new one?
Yeah. I would say I'd buy a new one, but then I'd buy it, do a few sketches in it, and then I'll go back to the old one to fill up. So I kind of got these going backwards and forwards, a bit of an ebb and a flow really with the sketchbooks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I'm not that organized, unfortunately. So it's kind of, you just grab a sketchbook and, lots of half fills notebooks lying around.
Yeah.
To that point of organization, do you finish, all one layer or multiple layers?
It's funny, actually. We've been talking about this recently because we're, just trying to sort of, be more efficient with the way we work, and we're always striving for simplicity in what we're doing. So I think it's a bad habit that we're gradually weaning ourselves off, isn't it? And trying to, you're much better at keeping it to sort of one layer, aren't you?
Trying to, yeah. I think having too many layers is obviously just too much. But obviously, again, depending on the type of work, you have to sometimes. But I think just, I used to animate a lot more individual parts to a body, whereas now I kind of try and keep it all in one layer. just to really keep it organized and actually draw every frame rather than relying on things moving and moving along. I think that's the other thing as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the more layers, more problems, but I still do it to myself camp.
Yeah. Fall into that
though. What color background do you draw on?
We've got a set hex, haven't we?
We have.
Do you really?
Yeah, we have. It's, if anyone wants to know, it's EF. It's a light. It's a very warm grey, very light but warm grey. We tend to use that because it basically is, again, quite a neutral color, so it just sort of feels. It doesn't distract from the actual work itself. So I find that we tend to that we lean into that as our favorite, really. And we obviously do use other colors as well, depending on what mood we're trying to sort of portray. But yeah, I would say as far as the default one is great at the moment, isn't it? Yeah.
No, it's always nice to be able to build up also from something rather than that just being your default highlight in the background.
Yeah.
And then the very last question in this segment would be your favorite art class you ever took.
I think screen printing is something we need to get more into, but yeah, I mean, just one of those things that I think life took over and I didn't continue, but definitely want to take it back up again. It's just so satisfying, just such a lovely process to go through.
Well, one of my favorites was a long time ago. I did a class that it was supposed to be life drawing. The person came in and then they mimed an object or they were carrying or whatever it was, and they did something in front of us, and then we had to imagine what that was. And that really stuck with me. It's something that's very unusual, and yet, because obviously there was nothing in front of us, but we just had to use our imagination to work out what might have been. And everybody came up with different answers, and it was really interesting. Really,
that's remarkable. Were there any that kind of lined up pretty close to each other, or was everybody radically different?
No, there were a few. But again, it was all dotted around the room. About 20 students, so it was very interesting. Some people drew bigger things and smaller things, depending on again experience or whatever. So it was really interesting. I thought it was quite an unusual way of approaching just drawing and how you actually approach art.
That's a fascinating. Was the person a good mime?
Yeah, really, really good.
Good mime. I wonder how the results would vary if it was someone who wasn't very good.
If I were to do it, it wouldn't be very good at all.
Everything's a glass box.
Yeah.
Great. Well, now that we have all of that in mind, I would love to go actually and pull up another piece of your work, which is this joint living, which is a project that you guys sent over for the Let's Look at Your Work. And just keep all of those questions in mind while we're checking this out, and we can see if we can see anything that also plays to that.
Welcome to Joint Living. Thoughtful accommodation for students. Our wellbeing program creates calm spaces and offers personal support, with social events to help you make new friends, and inclusive builds for financial security. We make room for what matters most. You.
That was so cute. That was so fun. Love the character design. Love the lounging lion as he's stretching out. Love your use of color, which is really cool. About how long did it take to create that piece?
Well, the project itself has been over a sort of span of a year. So we created the characters as static illustrations as part of the initial commission. And then it sort of grew arms and legs, literally. And they wanted to obviously make it move. And then we created this animation for them. But the animation itself, we did actually in about 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
I would say about 3 weeks. And that's from start to finish as well. With obviously, we did an initial pencil pass, and then actually obviously created it all in After Effects as well. So it's 3 weeks, I'd say. Yeah.
Wow, that's really impressive. That actually comes to a question that we had a little bit ago from Stan over on Behance, and he says, "Do you draw each frame by hand?"
With that one, yes. Simple as that. Yeah. We can. There are certain things we might do because we know it's going into After Effects, so we'll sort of say there's a hold frame, so we don't necessarily need to draw all those. You know, if it's holding for say a second, we don't have to draw those 12 images. So, yeah, I would say, but on the whole, yeah, all the transitions and everything, just so we know, it's just the quickest way to get what your intentions are and the timing and the spacing into it. So yeah, we do.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible to think about. I tend to work in vector myself, but it's crazy to think about sitting down and doing each individual frame. Bruce is wondering if you guys always think in animation in your daily life, or if you're able to kind of like divide those two parts of your brain.
It's
a really good question.
Yeah. I think we it's always there, I guess. And if not animation, then certainly kind of drawing, I think, just and kind of observing things.
Yeah.
There's always that element there. It's really hard to switch off, and yeah, we're not very good at it, really.
No, we should switch off. I'll definitely switch off more. But I think, again, because you want to get better and better and better, it's sort of almost, it becomes a bit of a drug, really. You know, you want to see if there's anything that you haven't seen before. So we tend to, even, you know, standing at a bus stop or something and just seeing people walk past, I'm tending to, well, both of us are just sort of looking and seeing how they walk or those mannerisms, you know, just to keep it up here. So
no, I think that it's really interesting to always see the eye of an animator as a reflection of life, because obviously if you look at people walking down the street, everyone walks a little differently. But when you think of walking and you're not an animator, you're just kind of like, they're just walking. But then it's the animator to, you know, kind of see that the dog also walks kind of like the person walking the dog, or, you know, the big guy with invisible lats, you know.
Yeah. I think as well, just you know, the world's so full of eccentric characters, and actually, you know, perhaps there are so many things that you kind of bypass, you know, in day-to-day life gets busy and whatnot, but when you just pause and start looking, there's so many great characters, you know, clothes combinations and you know, just different shapes and, you know, characteristics, and just wonderful observations that you can draw from.
Definitely,
really.
It's a great insight into your brain. And to that point, I think that brings us to a really good part for our next segment, which is what's in your sketchbook.
Ooh, what's in your sketchbook?
So you guys were kind enough to go ahead and send over actually a collection of sketchbook pages that you had kind of scanned in. And I wanted to just pull up a few of them and we could flip through them, and you guys could talk to us a little bit about kind of your thought process and what they're about. It's really cool to see them. It's great to see all of these things to the side. Now, these are actual scans, right?
Well, these are actually done digitally.
Wow, they look so physical.
Yeah, in Photoshop they are. So basically, just what I find is we really spend our time getting those brushes, because obviously Photoshop's fantastic with brushes. So finding a brush that could emulate an ink style, and then trying to make those actually, when you're drawing, feeling like it's an ink. So you draw in a specific way to create those characters. So yeah. That's how these are sort of created, really.
So these are all from we've been writing an awful lot, just kind of about the creative process, and you know, just looking at trying to break apart how we create, and things like, you know, using your imagination and daydreaming and imposter syndrome and all of these elements in the mix, and just writing and drawing, you know, with those sorts of topics in mind. And these are actually all kind of initial sort of thoughts, really, visual thoughts, visual thinking on each of those topics. And they were really for our own sort of, not only our own website, but social media posts, you know, when we're just trying to explore the start of characters and topics, and then stories, and we can build on that to sort of have these sort of micro stories. But it all starts with drawing, basically.
And when you're doing these starts, these drawings, and you're kind of in this brain process, I know over on the side here you have hairstyles, which is very fun because it has a lot of different shapes and forms. Are you looking at anything in particular, or are you kind of just first doing stream of consciousness?
Yeah, there's stream of consciousness. Yeah, definitely, because I think you just use that memory bank to pull out what you've got, and then maybe go on to other resources. But initially, it's what makes the best shape for a specific character. How can we get we want a bit of height. Okay, we'll have a really high, tall head, tall hair. So it's I would say initially it's just coming out of whatever we've got in our head, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Definitely.
Again, with the characters on the left, I would say it's trying to be as simplistic as possible. So only drawing one line where necessary. I find is really the challenge, but you get a sort of shorthand to it in the end. And once you sort of start one specific character, then that then moves on to the next one. So it's sort of just thinking of silhouettes and sort of line where the movement is and stuff like that sort of starts these off as well.
Oliver's saying, I wish my sketches were as good as their stick figures, which I think that it brings down to a great point of the simplicity of these feel so intentional. They almost feel like stick figures, but they obviously have a lot more weight and feeling to them. And it's cool to see. Some of them are way more leggier than others. And then also your use of negative space in something like this arm that's coming out of the side that kind of, your brain fills in the blanks for the rest of that side, which is cool. I want to scroll down a little bit more and check out a little bit more of these. You're continuing to play with texture, which is fun. Oh, wow. We got these little cats, which you guys know I'm a fan of. Now, are these references of your own cat, or are these just kind of going at it?
They were just random ones, actually, weren't they, please?
Just random. Just again, trying to think of primitive shapes to start with, just those sort of oval, like a rugby ball or a triangle, just as a base, and then trying to build from there as well, and trying to work out expressions as well. If say a cat did go like that, it would actually, how would it look? And just build from there and just keep adding shapes until you're happy with whatever you get, really, in the end. So, and then at the end, obviously, the one I've circled, I think on the bottom right, that's kind of the shape I think we ended up with, which is a mixture of all the two together. All the others together, and it's a bit more of a unified shape, and that's how I think we ended up with that character to be used as well. So
yeah, and it's subtle. You have like down here, you right above the circle, you kind of have this blobby shape without any legs, and it seems you've kind of taken this and merged it with this more arched and stylistic, but anatomically a little bit more correct, and you merge the two and add little stubby legs here. So it's fun to see kind of when you're working in math, it's like show your work. This feels very show your work to the final project. Then we also have these guys, which obviously there's a lot of silhouettes in your work and trying to find the best understanding with silhouettes. And is this kind of something that you're working on with the idea of action poses?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's about just thinking about a silhouette, but also that with an action pose, how far can you push it? How far can you exaggerate, one pose, which could be useful for when you're actually animating. So it's just working out the line of action very quickly and any gestures that we can put in, but it's a very quick way of doing it as well. Just simply putting don't have to go into too much detail. It's just the primitive shapes and the arms, the legs and limbs, and seeing what can come out from it. There's one there where you can see, I think the guy's behind a door or pushing a door. There's sort of three actually of the same image, but it's just working out where the leg should be. Obviously, by the end, is much straighter, So it's that sort of work through. So you can see the progression between the left one right the way through to the one on the right, where it's much more pushed and lower. He's falling lower as well. So
Now, this is a side note here, and this might be a hot take, but how do you guys feel about smearing and smudge animation?
Don't mind that at all.
Don't like it? Yeah, I didn't realize you don't really see it in your reel.
We recently did a piece for another piece, a client, and we used smear all the time, and it was really great because it's just such a great way of combining frames, and you don't need to be really slow and have the ease and the ease out. You obviously do a little bit of ease and a little bit, but that smear frame says a heck of a lot, so
I think it's being a bit cheeky with it as well.
Yeah.
I think it adds a lot of it can add a lot of character if it's done in that kind of snappy way. I think it can add a really lovely little energy to movements.
Yeah, I think it's also very unique to whatever product you're working on. Like, I feel like sometimes if it's a more serious topic, maybe that's something that you're not going to be doing. But if it's more playful, which I feel like a lot of the stuff that you guys do is very playful, you can definitely experiment it and really get wacky with it, which is fun.
Yeah, and it's lovely when you actually stop the frame and actually look at them. They're the best to look at as well. So
there was an old blog that I used to follow that would only specifically post the ones that were in between that were wild to look at. Now, you guys were so kind in sending over in so many of these, and I want to make sure that we show a bit of them, but I also want to make sure we can hop into our other segments. Were there any particular pages or selections that you were excited to talk about?
I think really a lot of them were just really to show kind of that sketchbooks for us are just, they're such resources for the future. So, like sitting in cafes, drawing people really quickly. They're just...
Do people catch you?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, definitely. But then I guess you just got to look very sort of discreet as if you're not doing it, but people don't mind at all. I think as long as you're very polite with them, that's fine. You just got to, I think they understand that people have got to document stuff, and it's better than, getting necessary stuff online. Actually doing it live is really fun to do. So
does anyone ever walk over to you and ask to see what you're drawing?
I haven't had that yet.
Okay.
Discreet.
So you just close the sketchbook as quick as possible and run out.
Taking notes.
I think as well here there's a lot of sort of imaginative sketching as well. So there's the combination. I think it's good to have sketchbooks and use it in all different ways. Like I said, just as this kind of fuel for the future, we're always dipping back into our old sketchbooks and seeing, what, and you sort of think, I'm not sure I need a spark of an idea, a seed of an idea. They're just the most valuable things to have in your toolbox, I'd say, just for your future self. So that's what we really love about sketchbooks.
And I think as well, we tend to draw, I say maybe a character, but then as you can see, it goes across the whole page as well. So you're just exploring different shapes and what you can really do with the character. So it definitely seems to have a sort of quite set. Now look at them now. I can see there's a definite set format that we tend to stick to, but there are as sort of eclectic as we possibly can as well, just to get as many different ideas out there and onto the page really.
No, I definitely agree, especially with the eclectic side of it too. Like, notably was taking note of these like shape ones that you have here that kind of are very different from anything else that you have, but it feels cohesive in the whole page. So it's like you committed to the bit, you figured it out, and you explored it to its best. Then you kind of move on to something else, which is always neat to see.
They're the most fun to do as well, because again, all you're doing is thinking, okay, I'm going to draw a shape, and then you think, okay, well, what can I combine that with, and then add a head, and then go from there and see what comes out. So you never know what it's going to end up with on these ones. So they're really fun to do. Definitely worth trying.
Over in the chat over on Behance, Stan saying you should start each public drawing session by saying out loud, "Dear Diary," so people think you're writing a diary.
That's a great
There was one thing that you said here while we were looking at it, which was kind of that it was a reflection onto the past. And we actually have a fun segment that we also have, which is From This to That.
From this to that.
So you guys were kind enough to send over some old pieces of work. Now you said that it was from, I believe, 2015, correct?
Yeah.
And these pieces you said were also from Christmas time, right?
They were, yeah. It was a time where we were just making that transition, where we were basically learning really the how to use the software, what software we wanted to use, just exploring different ideas. And that kind of, having these challenges online, like the, challenges of type, or this was a countdown to Christmas. And just having these just to experiment and use different software and trying to sort of tell little micro stories. But I mean, there's obviously, now when we look back, you can see all the things that you would do very differently. But
but that's always,
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. But I think the reason I sent them over was just, it's interesting how I think we didn't really realize it at the time, but even then we were just trying to explore these, we call them now micro stories. And how how you can within just a few frames tell these little narratives and be playful, and experiment with software. So we didn't really know what our preferred route was, but we just wanted to keep putting things out there. So these are just.
But this was before Form Play existed, right? So this was just you guys working on your own, right?
I guess these were the seeds of the idea that actually, what if you play, and what if you start experimenting with ways of doing things? And I think that almost just seeing the Santa Claus, that little is a little micro story, really, essentially. That's just tells you. Has a
it's
little
definitely canon. Like, who knew Santa Claus actually just has an inflatable suit?
Yeah, there's 5 frames in that, So
now, are there things that you see when you look at these that you still feel follow through to today's work?
I think the handcraftedness, for sure. I think certainly, the sort of character based as well. I think we were still sort of playing around with that, at that time. But
there's a lot of things I think, oh no. Wish we hadn't shown those.
No, I think it's wonderful though. And it's always really good to see. To follow up with that point though, I will say I'm going to go ahead and share the that which is the more present of things that you wanted to share over. And this one in particular is a beautiful animation of a photographer. And this obviously has a lot of updates since the last one we looked at. And I love your use of halftone here, which is really cool. It seems, especially even in the sketchbook, you're starting to play with texture, which is good to see. But then also, I know you also really care about shapes. You have this shape one. And it's just really cool to see, especially the progression, because this is less than 10 years here, which is wild to think about.
I think, all of these are kind of social posts that we created. And I think that the thing, I suppose, that stuck with us through all of it is just not be afraid to put stuff out there. And it's such a great way of kind of getting feedback, seeing what works, seeing what audiences like, really. Because I think when we started, we didn't really have a clue. We knew what we liked, but it could have landed really flat. And some of them obviously did. So I think over time, just by putting stuff out and not being too precious with it, we've kind of really tried to understand, what storytelling, what short form storytelling kind of works. This one, as an example, started from writing about constraints and trying to think outside of the box and these sort of self-limiting beliefs that we have.
I love this one. This one's so much fun. Almost has like Shel Silverstein vibes, but like a new modern version of it, which is cool. Which is a big favorite of mine. But I do like that idea of talking about being kind of in the box and trying to think out of the box. And we also have a segment that's called Burnout. What do you guys do when you get burnt out? What are some remedies that you can do to kind of get back on to the track and be inspired again?
Yeah, it's so difficult, isn't it? I think I think one of the reasons when we burn out or have burnt out in the past, it's because we've lost control of something, whether it's, certainly when we were doing before we started form play, I think a lot of our burnout was down to the fact we were in this cycle of creating sort of advertising campaigns. And, whilst everyone has to be, productive, and there's that kind of, you've got to put the hours in. I think if your heart's not in it, then it does lead to burnout quicker. And I think for us, it's that whole thing of, we can sustain work and long hours if our heart's in it. So it's really hard to do, but I think, and it takes time, but I think building your business or your client base up enough so that you are in a position where you can start to choose the work. You're not having to take the work just purely based on, money, which I totally get is a complete, luxury that, not, we often, or even, consider, like, sometimes, we really ought to be taking this job. It's a really tough balance, but I think ultimately you have to do work that you love. You have to keep that passion there. And often as well, it comes down to time, I think.
Definitely.
You often say about sort of building more time into schedules.
If we can. I mean, obviously, again, depends on deadlines, etc. But when you're specifically taking on client work, but if you can build time for exploration within those projects, that's really a good way of stopping that burnout going any further. I think, you can actually, keep the fun there and keep the enjoyment of actually what you're doing. So yeah, I'll definitely say building time in that. Yeah.
All great points. We spoke to a few people over time, and it always seems like it's really cool to see everyone has different approaches to it. But one of the things is really kind of just being kind to yourself, and I feel like that's one of the ways to be kind to yourself is like to remember that you're doing this for a reason, and that you're passionate about it. So give yourself the space to be passionate about it if you can. Obviously, to your point, privilege, but also there is something to be said about always making a little bit of time for it. And we are running really close on time, so I want to make sure we do one more segment that we have, which is also a new one called Next Question.
Next question.
So you guys are a little bit at a disadvantage for this one because there was no one before you for this segment. You guys are the first ones for this segment. But the whole idea of this one is asking a question for our next guest without really knowing much about them, just kind of throwing one to them and seeing where that gets us. So do you guys have a question that you'd like to ask the next guest?
We do.
Go on, Catherine, you answer.
What one word best describes your work?
Ooh. All right. Since you guys don't have a question, I'm going to have you answer your own question. What one word describes your work?
It's got to be playful.
I think that's the obvious one.
We've got to say playful.
It's literally right in the title. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you guys so much for coming on. You guys obviously are open for work for 2024.
We are.
Absolutely,
yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And where can people find you?
We're formplay.co, and on all socials, we're Formplay Studio.
Oh, fantastic. And make sure you guys check out that website for all of different inspirations and documentation of work, and also to get in contact. It was really cool getting to know you guys. I know we actually didn't have time for a few of our segments, so I do apologize about that. But we just got carried away with so much talking. I had a really great time just getting to know you guys. Is there anything that you're really excited about for 2024?
I think just keeping on sort of this combination of sort of side hustles and some lovely client things that we've got coming up. So yeah, just excited, really.
Yeah. Definitely.
Anything you want to leave in 2023?
Well, we're leaving work. This is actually working from home for us. So we've just signed up for a new studio, which we're so excited about.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's fantastic. Is it a long commute?
It's not. It's very short. Only 10 minutes away. So it's
set up for success then,
Absolutely.
you know? Because about 2 years ago, I joined a gym that took like 45 minutes to go to. And I never went because it was
it's practically the gym to get there. So.
Yep, pretty much. Well, thank you guys so much. We look forward to following you online. And I want to thank you again for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, guys, make sure you stay tuned here. We have 2 more episodes coming up today. If you're watching a replay on this, you have a whole 47 other episodes to check out. And if you're watching the replay, that means that you probably have a few after this as well. So make sure you check them out on the YouTube or on Behance. My name is Ryan Selvy, and you can find me online pretty much anywhere as Ryan Selvy. Thank you to everyone that joined us in the chat on both YouTube and Behance. It was great seeing everybody from Jack and Eliana, Lisago, Brem, Katarina, Oliver, Reverb, Mike, Oliver, Bruce, Stian, Umacorn, you name it. So thank you guys so much for being here. We'll be back in just a little bit if you're watching live, or we'll be back in seconds if you're already watching this as a replay. So thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you next time.